All right, everybody, we are back with our next game, game number 2 between Fnatic and NaVi. The new Fnatic lineup so far, they are undefeated today. They only played 2 maps, but those were 2 very impressive maps here, taking down King Queen in quite convincing fashion and also winning the first game against NaVi. Map number 2 is Tomb of the Spider Queen, and we are already in the draft, so let's jump in and find out which heroes we're going to see in the second game between those 2 teams.
Yeah, and this is actually one of the first drafts we've actually managed to join, because usually before anyone gets banned, because usually it's the instant rush for either that Jaina, that Zeratul, or the Abba for bans. But we managed to join before they actually went to it this time. But NaVi, sticking with the theme at least, banning out the Jaina. Fnatic going to be banning out the Zeratul unless they have something sneaky up their sleeves. But I really doubt they want to leave NaVi as Zeratul.
Yeah, at this point, like, Zeratul would be the normal ban that you would see in this case. But this is also one of the maps where then we would instantly see a Johanna pick probably on the side of NaVi.
Johanna Zagara, just instant if they're left open there.
Yeah, I mean, you have only the first pick, so Johanna is just a nice setup. First of all, it's a great hero in general, but also it's the hero required if you want to go into an Asmodan composition, and you can always threat that. And then even if you don't, your opponent might ban out the Asmodan and leave other heroes up for grabs that you really want to get. So it's likely that we're going to see Johanna here.
Yep.
And there she is.
And Fnatic, like I just said earlier, they do have the option to go into that Zagara very early on. Or they could continue to stick with their current theme of first picking Zeratul, first picking Illidan, sorry, no matter what the situation or the map, just first pick Illidan.
On this map, I have not really seen Illidan by any of the pro teams played in Europe yet. It's not really a good Illidan map. There are very few camps on the map that you can take without running into, very overexposing yourself, like way too much, and then you are in trouble. So not really the Illidan map, but well, maybe they have some new kind of approach to the hero. I would rather think that we are going to see what you already said. Maybe a Zagara here. We could see also a Kel'Thas. Then a Zebo is the hero that we love. And there is Zagara early on already.
Yep, and do you expect them maybe to, due to the fact that NaVi have shown the instant Johanna pick, maybe pick up the Malfurion for themselves? It's a bit of an earlier pick for the support, but just to pick it away from them in case NaVi are planning on going down the Asmodan comp, taking away Malfurion. He is by far the best healer for setting up those Asmodan stacks.
An early heal would definitely not be a big problem for them. I think that's definitely something that they can show here, especially since you can also head into a double heal then later on. So a healer in this case is one of the options that they have for sure. We've seen a lot of bans prioritize healers right now, and of course, if there's really going to be an Asmodan play, and NaVi would be well advised to pick the Asmodan right away, because if not, then we're going to see him banned out most likely by a Fnatic. But yeah, in this case, a healer could definitely be a solid option, but they decide to once again go into that highly valued Anubarak that we've seen especially Breeze play in every single game so far today.
Yep, just going for the heroes they are very comfortable on by the looks of it, and they are all very good. Like you said, if NaVi are going for that Asmodan, it's almost definite they're going to be picking it in these next 2 picks. And we can go over the heroes who combo well with the Asmodan to help set up those stacks. Tassadar, very important. The Malfurion, probably the best support for setting that up with that Moonfire talent on level 1 to help just completely wipe down those minion waves.
True, but if you have Johanna, you don't need them. Like, you don't really need to combo with them. They add a bit to that, but for Malfurion, I would really rather see them take him away if they go into an Asmodan at all, that is. But with the Tassadar, the one thing that Tassadar really adds is you need some lane deep push, so that if your opponent really tries to zerg you down at the beginning of the game when Asmodan is rather weak, then you can do something about it. But they go for an Uther here, and that also leads to us to believe that they might be the ones running in melee assassin. We've seen NaVi already once today with a Butcher.
Yeah, this is true, and they've been a team to run it a lot of times in a lot of different tournaments right now, more than pretty much anyone else I have seen. And they've also shown they're very comfortable running it without the Tyrande, which is what you see on ladder a lot, and just with the Uther and just going all in for that damage. We'll have to see if that's what they go for now, because, like you said, Johanna still is kind of showing of an Asmodan possibility. They can just stack off of her.
Yep.
The Uther showing for a melee assassin. They're showing a lot of strategies. There's the Kel'Thas.
And this is one of the reasons an Asmodan ban would make a lot of sense for Fnatic now, because if they don't ban him out, if you have an Uther already to keep Asmodan alive, if the opponent's team jumps in and is aggressive, that's already a first step. Then you have a Kel'Thas, and this is just going to increase the strength that you have in the late game if you go for Asmodan. And Fnatic, they could ban out the Azmodan here. I don't really think there's another hero that really demands a ban at this point, unless they really expect that with that Uther pick, Fnatic is trying to, NaVi is trying to once again draft a composition around one of the melee assassins, which in this case is most likely going to be another Butcher, since they already showed him earlier by JPL.
Yeah, like I said, Butcher a bit more likely than Illidan. Butcher has a very long range charge engage ability, and with such small distance between the lanes here, it's very easy for Butcher to catch someone out in this map. Whereas Illidan, like we said, very small map. It's much easier for players to run away from the Illidan, which is why we don't see him on this map. They can run back to their buildings or have their teammates come save them a lot quicker.
Yeah, and right now it's really taking quite some time for this ban to come into play. Azmodan is what we expected, but it looks like Fnatic might have some other strategy prepared here. It's also, of course, a question if you want to take that Azmodan up and they ban out the Butcher over the Azmodan, just simply saying, all right, we would rather deal with them going for an Azmodan, having Azmodan Kel'Thas, leaving them rather weak in the early game, then running up against their strategy that they showed earlier on today against Team Rocket, where they were showing that Butcher. So Butcher banned out, and there's the Malfurion ban. It's very likely that we're going to see an Azmodan.
Yep, it's looking very likely for Na'Vi. Fnatic is not even a hero that you can just pick away as well. It's definitely not one of those, because you need a comp to set it up. And Zagara and Ubrak, not heroes I think of when I think, ooh, I'm going to stack.
Yeah, if they really wanted to stack, then they would have to just combo with some other hero that can help Azmodan out. That might be the Tassadar that you've been talking about earlier. If you don't have a Johanna to help you to set this up, a Tassadar makes sense. But still, as you already said, it's not really a hero that you want to draft either way. I mean, at this point, it's really getting a bit tricky. How is Fnatic going to interact here? The Reka is a no-brainer, just because, well, there's very little other heal left out there that you can rely upon. But what are they going to do for damage? They need something here. And they have Nazeebo, there's a Sylvanas, which is great on this map. They have a lot of heroes that they can choose from. Yeah. Could even head into that Azmodan that I've been talking about earlier, even though it is rather unlikely.
Yeah, they do still have the option, like we said, of picking the Tassadar, and maybe not for stacking an Azmodan, but just to, as we spoke about earlier on one of the other maps, deny the vision you can get from the Oracle, which can really deny the creep tumors of Zagara, which on this map are incredible due to, as we've said many times, the lanes being a lot smaller and the objective areas being a lot smaller, so keeping vision of those is essential.
Yeah, well, for now, let's see what exactly is going to be the pick. Actually, like, the rundown of time.
Illidan?
There is an Illidan. They ran out of time. I'm not 100% certain if this is actually going to be an Illidan pick, or if this is just them running out of time and getting that draft in too late. And Illidan, as we said, is very, very uncommon on this map. This would be the first time that I see an Illidan here. We have, in this case, again, very similar. This is actually exactly the setup. Not quite, but nearly the same setup that they had in the last game on Tomb of the Spider Queen. Are they really going to run an Illidan here? Do they believe in their ability to make a melee assassin work in this case? It would be a lot of pressure against somebody like an Azmodan, even though, of course, that All Shall Burn is quite nice against a melee assassin.
I have seen an Illidan on this map, and it was by LoL before, but that was when Fnatic, the map had just come out, and Fnatic ran the Illidan and the Lost Vikings on the map, and they just smashed their way through everything and were very effective with it, but I haven't really seen it that much since. So they do, like we said, have the Rhaegar for the protection, and there's not really anyone right now on the side of Na'Vi to deal with this Illidan. Yeah,
Illidan just seems way too much of a targeted pick than a random pick because they ran out of time, and nobody said anything in the lobby, so I assume that this is really what they're going for here. We haven't seen that in a long time. The problem with Illidan on this map, well, first of all, the structures are really close together. You can't really chase as much as on other maps. You have not as many mercenary camps. But the way that they've been playing Illidan, it worked out very well for them. They've played him on every single map so far. And they're going to try him here. And that forces the hand of Na'Vi going into a Muradin for Reverberation.
Yep, that Reverberation really trying to deal with that Illidan auto attack speed. But they do still need some more damage. They cannot rely on Kael'thas to do this alone.
Yeah.
So what damage dealer can they pick that can really compete with Illidan in the early game? Now, normally, if this was like many, many patches ago, you would say, oh, early game Illidan? Tychus. Just overkill onto him. But Tychus is so far out of the meta right now, it's not really the case where he can work.
There's still a Sylvanas that you could get for the Wailing Arrow, and then with Barb Shot on this map, you have a lot of pushing potential, just like D-push. It gives you a bit of safety also to reach that late game, where we are having then Kael'thas. And then again, they already run a double warrior comp, a double tank comp, so Do you need the Sylvanas? You can play the Sylvanas. You don't really have to, though. You could also just decide to go into a Nazeebo as well. Nazeebo can stack very well on this map, since you normally get a lot of those stacks from the bot lane and the mid lane, depending on where exactly you play him, but you can soak more than only one lane. So this is actually one of those things that they could consider to do as well. And also running down very much in the time pool. And they go for the sniper comp here into Muradin Tyrande.
Yeah, when I was about to go all into the other assassins they could pick, like Valor, just to avoid the damage while still getting those punching arrows off, the Falstad with the lightning rod, and just completely negated, because like you said, that sniper comp is really good. And that Zagara is going to need to watch out, because she's going to be the target a lot.
Yeah, this is one of the maps where we especially saw Alternate Fancy back in the days play a lot with Muradin and Tyrande, and you have the damage behind it with the Kel'Thas, but more importantly, for the early game roams at least, you have an Uther for the third stun. There's the Nazeebo that we already expected earlier, and that is a very strong push combination with not only having the Zagara here, but also Nazeebo. So a pretty sick lineup that we're already seeing for Fnatic, with an unexpected Illidan that on this map hasn't been played since the map first came out, at least not on the European server. Might have been played on North America, but in Europe, all Illidan players said from the beginning, this is not really an Illidan map. We don't want to play the hero here. But Lowell already making some changes to the way that he plays Illidan in general. The Thrill of Battle, for example, being a good, a good example here at level 7. He is the first player who forgoes the first 8 and does not go with Thrill of Battle into a Judgment, but still plays it with Metamorphosis. Virtus Pro, of course, already showing Thrill of Battle quite a bit. But yeah, very interesting composition. And we are going to head into the game as soon as the players are ready. Tomb of the Spider Queen is, of course, going to be in. Let me actually just see. Okay, we're still waiting for one player. Alex, actually. Alex, the Frog, is currently the one we're waiting for. And he seems to be playing the Johanna now in this game.
Yep, and we were talking about how... Nope, lost my train of thought there. But no, yeah, you said the Illidan not... I just completely blanked everything, so I was looking at... I was waiting for Alex to ready up. But like you said, Illidan not really favoured on this map for many reasons. But like you said, with those Thriller Battle changes, we saw Lowell taking the boss there, and he had like one heal from Illidan the entire time, from Malfurion the entire time, and was still able to half health the boss while he remained full health and capable of joining that fight. When he needed to, someone just readied and unreadied. They are trolling me. But they were just getting... But he was able to remain full health and then come out from the boss and join a fight with everything ready. It's a really good ability.
Well, and we are ready now with the players, so we're going to jump into our second game. Once again, the winner of this best-of-3 series will qualify for Gamescom. The loser is not out of the tournament yet, but gets another chance going up against Kinguin in another best-of-3 series in the consolation match. So, for Fnatic right now, another victory here on Tomb of the Spider Queen would mean that they go directly to Gamescom. They would be qualified coming out of this group as the first-place team. And if NaVi takes it, then we're going to see a third map between these two top teams here. And the first game that we saw on Blackheart's Bay was already quite entertaining. This time, we've been an Illidan on Tomb of the Spider Queen, so this should be good. And guys, we're going to jump in right away to find out if Fnatic takes on NaVi with a 2-0 or if NaVi strikes back. And in this case now, we have in the mid lane, or to the left side of the map, we have Lowell for Fnatic on Illidan, Mane on Zagara. Breeze is playing Nuburak once again in the tank role here, playing one of his favorite frontliners. Kesil on Nazeebo, and Wooby playing the support. He is on Rega. The right side of the map, it is NaVi, of course, with Eternal on Muradin, Shrimpy on Tyrande to complete that Muradin Tyrande roaming a gang squad. Alex the Frog on Johanna. We have JBL on Kel'Thas, and Uther played by Splendor.
Talent-wise, everything is standard. We're not seeing Beetle build or Regen Master from Nuburak, instead going for the extended spines. But that does make a lot of sense, considering it's going to be two warriors getting very close and then a Kael'thas in the back, and you want to be able to hit as many of those as possible.
Right now, already trying to find out, first of all, where exactly Zagara is. Taking down that creep tumor as well. We have up at the top lane, Nuburak just waiting. Breeze is in position, and yeah, the big problem, of course, is that Fnatic knows there is somewhere this Tyrande together with a Johanna or a Muradin trying to snipe someone like Zagara, and Mane will have to play a very careful early game.
And right now, Eternal was hiding in the bot lane, waiting for Mane to come out of position, but instead just stayed really far back, and Muradin now regrouping up with Tyrande, and they want to see if they can grab someone. Lowell might be the target here if he steps out of line. Breeze very, very pushed up, but There's no way they're going to be able to gank him here, especially since Illidan is hanging around in the area between the two lanes.
Yeah, there comes the stun though against Rhaegar, trying to move away. Where's that wolf bomb? Wooby escapes in the last second, wells up. And there's nothing that they could do here. For Fnatic, all that matters is staying alive in the early game, not losing any heroes. If they can get a kill, amazing. If they don't, it's all good. They are the ones who have to make sure that in the early game, that Muradin and Tyrande comp is not going to take them apart.
Main, that's so passive here, just staying as far back as possible, even off his own creep, just so he's not seen while the creep is trying to be taken down. Just dancing back and forward just for XP, just for a little bit of XP, completely ignoring the gems.
Yeah, really well done here. He doesn't take any gems. He plays that safe game that he has to because he knows that at some point there will be a Tyrande and American lurking just over him, trying to take him out here. Breeze moves away, double stun, and goodbye, Anubarak. Get wrecked, son. Nothing that he can do about this one. Was very well played, especially by Muradin, waiting with a Storm Bolt for Breeze to emerge.
All aboard the stun train, and that is what this composition from NaVi is. Every single person has a stun, and that's going to be very difficult.
And that must have felt really good because they are already like, all right, traitor, there you go, die. So they take down Breeze, and let's find out if they can do that again. This is still a grudge bet, guys. In case that you didn't know, Breeze was for the longest time the tank player for NaVi. This is the first time that he plays for Fnatic, so he switched teams, and so did Wooby, and they are going to be the priority targets probably for the remaining NaVi players.
Almost definitely. And level 4s have been hit by both teams, but level 5 almost ready for NaVi. There's the stuns again onto Breeze. He burrow charges, but Muradin gets the jump. And they do not get Breeze. He's dropped so low, but he does escape.
And I think Muradin jumped even a little bit further than he usually does, just because he was so enthusiastic here.
He just had no follow-up to it. He'd already used his abilities to try and burst him down. He was like, jump! Okay, what do I do? And Breeze had just enough time to get away.
Alright, so Kesa also trying to get in the damage in the mid lane to push this, and they already took one of the camps, and that's actually like pretty cool. That's one of the things where, of course, especially Illidan can help you out. We talked that there are only a few camps that Illidan can take, and those are actually the ones where he's currently busy at, because he's saying like, yeah, no, there are only 2, but I'm going to get those as fast as I can so that we get a bit of relief on the lanes and can push them back.
Yeah, but this does mean Illidan can now rejoin his team. There's the stun onto the Rhaegar, the follow-up stun, and the body blocks trapping Wubby, and he does go down. And that is currently 2 kills to Fnatic, to NaVi, both of them on the ex-NaVi player and coach.
Yeah, but at the same time, though, Kesel was already there to soak the experience, so it's not like they lost a whole lot. They lost, of course, a bit of experience since 2 of their healers, 2 of their characters were killed. But that's not too important. It's more important that you still soak those waves, and that's exactly what they did. They didn't miss out on a single minion there. The advantage is a very slim one that we're seeing for NaVi, but they get the first web weavers, and that's a bit of a different story.
Uther taking a bit of damage, and this may be the first web, but Lowell doesn't have any way to body block Splendor as he was standing next to him instead of behind him. But now Breeze, once again, dodges the first stun, does not dodge the second one. There's the vulnerable, there's the Uther stun, and down he goes. The Splendor now caught in a zombie wall. Lowell trying to do as much damage as he can, but with Alex the Pro G here, that will force all of Fnatic to back up.
Completely different game from the last one, at least in the early stages. Of course, this composition that we are seeing for NaVi is super scary early on, and they are showing why. They move across the map. They have very good rotations here. Every single time when they see, okay, this is going to be a bit of a longer battle, you see the other lanes reacting immediately, and now they're pushing in with the web weavers. They already have a 1-level lead in this case, and they're trying to cement this even further.
Yeah, they're trying to do it as much as they can. This web weaver will go down without getting the second tower, but getting 1 tower is still a little bit of XP for NaVi and getting them further and further ahead.
Thrill of Battle once again being used, as mentioned before. First of all, it's very, very nice since you reduce the cooldown of your heroic ability even further, and since we have a 2-minute cooldown on Metamorphosis, you are usually the bottleneck for team fights. That really helps. And another big factor is that you will get your shield up so much faster, and especially when you take up your level 13 talent, this is super important going up against characters like Jaina, Kel'Thas, and such.
Yeah, very important indeed. Alex the Pro G just throwing out his blind for the moment, just doing anything he can, but there's going to be no pressure currently coming out from NaVi because they're not grouped up for it. They're just collecting gems right now. And on the side of Fnatic, there's not much they can do either. They're trying to look for their angle, but they've been sending people back quite a few times because they needed health and they haven't been able to get control.
they need to really move in and turn these gems in. The problem is if they get sniped again, if, for example, Lowell dies or Rega, they lose so many gems. They have 64 in total, and it's really time for them to try and turn in. They have to do that before the level 10 hits, because once that NaVi has level 10, there's just no way for Fnatic to get a turn in before they get the heroic ability themselves.
Here comes the stun train. Breeze dodges one. He gets cleansed anyway, but the stuns have now started to land. Vulnerable lands on him, but he gets a knock onto Tyrande.
Very impressive that he got away there. That's like 4 stuns that he has to deal with in this scenario, and he was able to make that happen. So that was not an easy juke.
3 were used, 1 was hit, 1 cleanse was used unnecessarily because he dodged the stun.
Yep. So currently Rega already learning no more cleanse for Breeze.
Yeah, we have more stuns right now coming out in the form of the Avatar. Down goes Rhaegar, getting picked off there. He was not able to dodge the stuns, but we do have the Avatar coming out from Muradin and the Blessed Shield.
I heard that he was not prepared, and he lost now 16 gems, so that's an issue. And of course, with the level 10, NaVi is now moving in. They are doing very, very well in this game.
Yeah, but they are much more controlling than they were in the last game. And this is where NaVi have always excelled. When they are ahead and they are in control, it's very hard for them to lose. And this is what we've seen from them in a lot of tournaments. But it has been shown that they are not unbeatable when they're in that position. They have gone down in games they're ahead before. And Fnatic looking to do that now. They do now have their heroics as well.
We have now the Red Web Weavers ascending. There's level 10 Metamorphosis taken, Web Blast, Gary the Gargantuan. We have also Ancestral Healing and the Maw. And for now, they can finally start to fight. Sectioning off a couple of heroes during this battle with a good Maw is really already half the victory here. If they can do that and then section off another one with the Web Blast, they can deal with the remainders of the opponent's team and just take them down one by one.
Yeah, and we can see that Owl flying out, getting some good vision here. Wubby does have his Shadow Wolf though, so was able to stay cloaked as the Vision Owl flew past him. But now, though, NaVi just has someone in every lane. They're just soaking as much as they can. And I'd like to point out, Kael'thas has been bot lane pretty much unattended for most of the game now.
Yeah, we have everywhere Web Weavers just pushing in. Bot lane has already been defeated thanks to Maino and Lower. But they have to really make sure that they don't lose additional structures up at the top. They are already more than a level behind, and that is starting to become extremely scary, especially with the level 13 looming on the horizon for NaVi. Once again up at the top lane, a very good stun from Breeze. Illidan is actually just moving in at the bot lane. He has a lot of gems here, but we're seeing Breeze together with Kaysel trying to save that fort, but there's very little to save if there's Web Weaver and an entire team setup trying to rotate in.
Yeah, and we do see JPL, he finally gave up on that bot lane to go help his team push, but now he realizes, well, the enemy team's not defending and the Web Weaver's dead, so I'm just going to go back to bot lane. So he's just going to go back there and continue to soak and continue to take down buildings from there, while the rest of NaVi split up, gather XP, and keep the pressure on. Just don't let Fnatic take an inch.
Yeah, Alex, the Pro G, Shrimpy, and the rest of them are currently still in the mid lane here. Level 13 talent is now ready for the 1.5 level lead. And there were already pings at the boss trying to find out, is our opponent maybe trying to use their advantage in the game to get a boss and get even further ahead? Can Fnatic really fight against the level 13 talent here? It looks like they are willing to try.
They are willing to try indeed, lol. Going forward, gets stunned up once. Eternal was not there, though, with that follow-up stun, but the stun club is now here. All 5 of them are. There's the Blessed Shield on to the Nazi bow. He gets stunned up and he gets taken down. Ancestral nowhere near in time. And that is another kill going over to NaVi, and now they are just going to move over to the turning point.
Yeah, Fnatic has a lot of gems. They still have all the gems available. They actually didn't lose anything here in this case, but still, they need to turn those in and they need to make it happen fast, because right now NaVi is ripping them a new one, and that doesn't feel good. We have Mena already moving into the bot lane. There's Eternal and JPL. They're rotating again. They want to turn in once more. They don't have the gem count yet, but they are close.
Yeah, Splendor showing himself in the top lane here, maybe trying to bait, while we see Alex the Pro G and the Tyrande getting ready to maybe try and get that gank. But Fnatic just playing very safe, playing very far behind their minion waves right now, because that's all that that's all that's between them and the Storm Bolts coming in from Muradin.
Breeze is still waiting it out here. 31 gems for him, and the most are still, though, on Lowell, 39. Can they turn in? They need to. The Red Web Weavers descending again. This is the 3rd Web Weaver wave that we're seeing for the Red team. They are in an absolutely insane position. Fnatic currently, they have 2 full turn-ins on their setup. 2 full turn-ins that they could turn in if they just finally would get into the mid lane. They need the 13 talent. They give up the bot lane for such a passive play by them, but they have no other choice.
Yeah, they can't do anything about this. They could come in and fight, but it would be very, very dangerous for them at the moment, and they're choosing not to. In fact, they are just waiting here, though, looking for a good engage angle, but LoL having to pull back a bit there. Breeze throws in the web blast, and this is the engagement. They're going on to JPL.
They're jumping straight in. Once again, Starfall and Phoenix in the same place. So much AoE damage, but they're forcing them back. Breeze is a little bit low. Muradin already in his stone form. Splendor's trying to get something in. Another stun, the second stun coming into play. Everybody just dead and dying, at least on the side of Fnatic. They're rushing away as LoL tries to escape. Was claiming all of those gems. Answers to healing coming in. Another stun attempt. The Condemn already too, but he gets away. Dodges even. Torrent stun. Wow. He's basically playing slalom here, from left to the right to the left, dodging stun after stun. This is a brutal amount of stuns and CCs that are raining down on them.
If you can dodge a stun, you can dodge a ball. And Illidan is able to do so, but there's not much he can do about winning the actual game right now, as he did dive in onto JPL, and JPL instantly Divine Shield. And with Muradin and Johanna in that front line, there was just too many stuns and too many issues for Fnatic to deal with to just leave Illidan and Breeze up there.
That was a beautiful setup that we are seeing here on the side of Na'Vi. This is working so well for them. And Fnatic just can't find an angle to really contest this. They still have more than 100 gems here, which is incredible. But they're 3 levels, well, 2 levels behind. And they don't have that extra talent that we're already seeing on the side of Na'Vi with the Stone Form, the Lunar Blaze, or in this case the Shooting Star. We have even an imposing presence, Ignite and Benediction taken. And what are you going to do about this? They cannot take a fight, and they need to take one if they really want to move into the mid lane to turn in these gems.
Yeah, they need to take any kind of fight. They need some space. And Na'Vi's just not giving it to them. Na'Vi just in massive control. They're clearing out these bruiser camps that Fnatic took earlier. Their own bruiser camps are up. They can go grab them whenever they like, but right now they don't need to because they see everything that goes on. So right now all these do is just deny XP to Fnatic until Fnatic make a mistake.
This is the definition of map control. Fnatic was not able to do anything for the last 5 minutes in the game. They're trying to turn in, but they can't. Up at the top lane, the boss is now being engaged upon. And Fnatic is still playing passive. They don't know where these heroes are. And they're just saying, like, well, we have no clue what they're doing. They might go for the boss. They might just, like, set a trap for us somewhere. So Fnatic, how are they going to react right now? If that boss is going to be claimed, then yes, it is. They're probably going to lose the top keep.
Yeah, the top keep is going to get pushed in very hard with that boss. And the rest of Na'Vi, though, moving towards this mid lane. They're just going to split push with this boss. Actually, it looks like JPL, at least, is going to move even further down and go clear that bot lane and maybe continue to push it.
Yeah, Alex moving in. The boss at the top lane, of course, busy already. And the rest of the Na'Vi setup is just moving into the middle, taking down the tower and going for the gate. Whereas Kel'Thas is pushing out the bot lane even. Up here at the top, the fort, the keep is getting attacked, and in the mid lane, of course, we see a very, very similar situation right now with Na'Vi just making the moves, but playing it still very passive. They know that they have a massive advantage still, and they don't want to risk it.
Yeah, you don't want to stay behind and just get yourself picked off, a la Gamers 2 on their games on Sky Temple. Only to be fair, that was more of a hit and run kind of competition, and they just didn't run fast enough. Still was a very good composition, but Na'Vi just a completely different strategy here, where basically instead of just hitting and running, they're just controlling and pushing while Fnatic are there, and there's nothing Fnatic can do about it.
They lose way too much. And I mean, Shrimpy even double-checking the Siege Giants to make sure that Illidan didn't simply sneak to the bot lane to try and take the mercenary camp here. They are waiting for an opportunity to kill somebody. They're still level 18 versus 15 talents. In the case, this is, of course, the 16 talent advantage that they have. But right now, they're trying to get a couple of additional gems that they can use. They don't need too much, to be honest, to get the Web Weavers. And that would be the 4th Web Weaver set for them.
Fnatic right now just hanging back, soaking until they get to 16. They do not want that Web Weaver set to go over to Na'Vi, but there's very little that they can do to defend it.
It's 140 gems that we're now seeing for Fnatic. That's basically, if they get a few more gems, they will have 3 turn-ins on their side. They just can't move into the mid lane. That's the only problem that they have with this, because Na'Vi is just everywhere.
Well, we are now seeing them begin to make their way in. Down comes the totem from Rhaegar to at least get the scout, but it's too late.
Wow, denied. Oh, this is so harsh. This was the only chance that they had right now because they finally hit level 16. They're saying like, all right, we have to do it now or never. And now the Web Weavers are up against them again. Oh, this is so painful.
It is so painful indeed. Breeze does get owled and stunned. Just so much pressure coming out from NaVi. Neither of those two things that just happened were necessary. That owl or that stun, but it just shows dominance.
This is the 4th Web Weaver set that NaVi has in this game, and we didn't see a single one for Fnatic. They are moving in, and this is going to cost Fnatic a keep. There's no doubting it. And Fnatic, after this, has to move into the mid lane. They have to take a fight at some point, and it looks like this is going to be the one that they are going to take. Illidan jumping in with the Metamorphosis. The stun's already coming out, but the Web Blast already being used by Breeze. They're going straight for the backline here. At the same time, there's another Phoenix, and also in this case, the Maw finally being used.
Splendor is trapped away from his team. He Divine Shields himself, but that means it's not ready for Schwimpy, who's being dropped very low. Schwimpy, though, able to escape. We saw Illidan finally going down. Ancestral had already been used on him. Breeze, Burrow charging away, but there's going to be too many stuns. There's the Flame Strike. There's the Condemn. Heal coming in from Rhaegar to keep him alive, but the follow-up stuns are too much. Too many stuns. Schwimpy is here with 0 health, but he's just throwing stuns out and throwing as much Sarash as he can, and we're going to see NaVi pushing in here. Their Web Weaver is still alive. 3 members remain of Fnatic. They have to play their hardest to try and defend this, but there's Web Weavers from the top lane as well pushing this in. Bottom keep just died too, so it's 2 sets of Web Weavers and the all 5 members of NaVi going to be pushing this in. Phoenix gets played down. They're going to try and burst the core. Top Web Weaver has been killed off, and NaVi looks like they're going to back up from this. 3 members of Fnatic are apparently enough to scare them, but no, they turn around immediately, go to Natus. He chased too hard. There's the ice block. He is still alive, but Rhaegar, Ancestral's down, and down he goes to the Living Bomb. Lol tried to do it, but he does push him back.
Yep, and they're disengaging right now, all 5 of them. Better safe than sorry. 9 kills against 0 in this game. Fnatic is still holding on to 120 gems that they currently have here. Up to the top lane, Wooby has 82. He was basically the one always moving in, rushing in when somebody was dying, gathering up the gems and then moving back once again. They already have some damage at the core, but this is of course absolute brutal scenario for them. The level 20 talent is already on the board for NaVi, and of course they're going to move in right now. They're going straight for this camp, going to take this, and they have their talents, and they should be able to move in and go for the kill.
Yeah, that's the issue. Nothing has changed in this situation. This was not a situation of they dived the core and they lost a couple members and that gave Fnatic time to come back. It's a situation of they got a couple kills, but they were like, we might lose someone, so they pulled back. They played it safe, and they are still in so much control that they can absolutely afford to do this. There's still 3 levels to go before Fnatic gets their level 20s.
They get their camp to the right side. Now we have JPL, Eternal, and Splendor in position for this. Of course, there's also the boss to consider, but they are not even stopping there. They're going straight down to the bot lane, claiming the Siege Giant camp, and with this, they have the lanes pushing again, and it looks like they are going to just get the boss here. They don't even have to. They can just push in with the camps that they see there. They attempt to go for the throw pit, though. It's a bit of a gamble, a small one at that, but still.
Yep. This is basically the last chance of Fnatic. They kind of have to fight this. Because if that boss comes in, they're going to die. Breeze sends in the spike bed to just see what's going on. Shield Glare coming out from Johanna, trying to keep an eye on it. Kessel with spiders as well. But in comes the top of NaVi. Nice Metamorphosis to dodge it, but the Blessed Shield can't dodge that. And Illidan gets out thanks to the incredible Devouring Maw from Zagara, but the Flame Strike picks him off in the end. The Web Blast comes down. They free JPL, and they're going to continue pushing in. That is the Illidan down, and NaVi just continuing to push this. And what can they really do? The Web Weavers are here. They finally turned in at some point. And I guess that could de-push the lanes. NaVi, though, they're looking to try and maybe go for an end here, or at least just kill off these Web Weavers straight away.
NaVi is pushing in already, and they have 1 hero down on the side of Fnatic. It's 10 kills against 0. NaVi with dominant performance here, taking down the Web Weavers. Up at the top, Alex the Pro G is starting to move in once again, and this is looking very good for NaVi. But again, they move back. Again, they play it safe. Again, they don't go straight for the kill. They want to move up to take the boss once that the Web Weavers have been eliminated.
Yeah, and that bottom Web Weaver does now die, and immediately they start on the boss. And once again, Fnatic are on their way. They're trying to sneak it, but that minion wave is having none of it and sees everything. And Uberak, he kind of just has to tunnel in if he wants to contest this in the slightest. Is he going to do it? No, because he gets stunned up by Kael'thas. There is the boss. Flame Strike does not land thanks to that Burrow Charge. That was very lucky he landed on the correct side of that wall.
Yeah, that was definitely lucky, but the problem is that this boss is definitely very much, I don't want to call him unstoppable, but 21 minutes in, he's extremely strong. And if he's supported by 5 heroes of Team NaVi, who got 10 kills already and didn't suffer a single death, then the chances of Fnatic are slim to none. Yeah. The stun combo hits an Uberak, he is dead, and this should be
the backline, though. We are seeing Kessel and Lol do as much damage as they can, but nope, Zagara just gets flame strikes. We're seeing the stuns onto Lol. Down he goes. Kessel's in the background. He iceboxed the stun, but he is on his own. JPL pushing in with the boss here, and they're going to be able to take it. Well played by NaVi. We did finally see the Nazimo go down. Rhaegar, once again, the only one left alive. 2 games in a row, both on different teams. And that is GG. And NaVi bring the score back to 1-1.
NaVi taking the game, and an absolutely dominant performance by them. We talked in the first game about how good NaVi, or how good Fnatic looked actually in the first game, but right now NaVi turning it completely around. Didn't leave Fnatic a chance in the world. 10 kills again, actually more than that, 12 kills against 0 at the end of the game, and they just dominated the game from start to finish. Those turn-in points, they belong to NaVi. Their name was written on the walls of both of those circles that we had there. And NaVi, they take there for game number 2 and force a 3rd game out of Fnatic. This 3rd game is going to come up in just a second, guys. We're going to jump into a short break, and once the teams are ready with the draft, we're going to be back with the 3rd and deciding game here in the winners match at the WCA European Pro Qualifier between NaVi and Fnatic.